Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Mucking Fun Day. Did you have a good weekend? Well, we've got some news for you from the weekend and from today to get you back into the world of knowing what the hell's going on. This is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we started and we haven't had any caffeine. So, what are in the headlines for today's show? Today on Before Coffee, India and the UK discuss advancing FTA talks. The EU hits Russia with new sanctions amid Trump uncertainty.
This is Roger from the United States, where the news is Canadian fiber optic cable has been cut deliberately.
Sunday's elections are over, and Union wins federal election. FDP and BSW miss out.
And in Mississippi, freedom of the press. Who needs that?
It shouldn't be such a fight. The drama school supporting working class actors.
And it's National Tortilla Day. Tortilla Day. February 24th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
I love a crunchy tortilla chip in the morning. You know, I like to wake up and no water, like don't brush my teeth, just some salsa too. Yeah, nice salsa chip.
Cornflakes are kind of like tortilla chips, right?
Yeah,
kind of. Tiny tortillas.
Depends how long you leave the cornflakes in the milk, I guess.
Long enough.
Long enough. All right, let's roll our segue wheel here.
Oh, yeah.
And then get on with it. It's in black and white now. I wonder why it changed. Limerick! Fine, you got a limerick right in the morning.
All right.
Let me get my pencil and paper out.
Yeah, let's get my paper. I won't need my glasses for this one.
My first story is about India and the UK, which are having trade talks, and they're advancing them as we speak. This is on The Hindu. India and the UK today on the 24th of February discussed to advance the India-UK Free Trade Agreement, or FTA, negotiations, while ensuring that the pact is balanced, ambitious, and mutually beneficial. In a post on Twitter, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said both countries reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening trade and investment ties. He held a meeting with UK Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Jonathan Reynolds. During the meeting, our discussions focused on advancing India-UK Free Trade Agreement negotiations, ensuring that the agreement is balanced, ambitious, and mutually beneficial, Mr. Goyal said. The India-UK FTA negotiations were launched on the 13th of 2022, so they've been going for 3 years now, and they still haven't finished that agreement. The agreement is aimed at boosting bilateral trade and investments. In such pacts, two countries either eliminate or significantly reduce customs duties on maximum goods traded between them. So the things they trade the most, they're like, let's just reduce or maybe completely get rid of duties on that so that we can just continue to freely trade these 200, 300, or 500 biggest trades we have. They also ease norms for promoting trade and services and bilateral investment. The bilateral trade between India and UK increased to $21.34 billion in 2023-24 from $20.36 billion in 22 and 23. That doesn't seem like it's $1 billion is a lot, but that doesn't seem like, percentually, that doesn't seem like a lot, and a huge increase. The United Kingdom is the sixth largest investor in India. The country has received $35.3 billion of FDI during the April 2000 and September 24. So, just a communal trade agreement between the two countries, which they definitely probably need now that Brexit is, I think, permanently here to stay, unfortunately. Speaking of, trade, let's talk about stopping trade through sanctions. The EU hits Russia with another sanction, including oil and gas refineries, but does not include a full ban on liquefied liquidated natural gas. I can speak. Russian liquidated natural gas. This is on Giordano. The European Union approved new sanctions package against Russia on today, the 24th of February, as U.S. President and convicted felon Donald Trump pushes for negotiations over Ukraine's future. EU delivers foreign ministers just to approve the 16th package of sanctions against Russia, the EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas said in a statement. It hits everything from Shadow Fleet ships to gaming controllers used to control drones. We now have the most extensive sanctions ever, weakening Russia's war effort, she said. The package, adopted on the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, targets aluminium imports, Shadow Fleet vessels, and exports of chemicals, chrome, and other materials used in precision machine tools. It also includes a ban on servicing oil and gas refineries, but it does not include a full ban on Russian liquefied natural gas, amid discussions with Washington about potentially increasing U.S. liquefied natural gas exports to Europe. The administration of the United States had been pursuing negotiations with Russia to end the war in Ukraine, raising concerns among European leaders about the potential impact on their sanctions strategy. Russia and its people are paying a price for their leaders' actions, the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, wrote in a joint statement announcing the sanctions. So 3 people wrote a joint statement which they all agree that Russia needs to pay for its actions, or its people, I guess, also need to pay. In a challenging international geopolitical environment, we stress the importance of maintaining transatlantic and global solidarity with Ukraine, the statement added. So there's your story, there's your updates from the weekend and things that have been happening today and on the weekend. Do you have a limerick for me?
They're working on it. Just give me a second. Trade talks between London and Mumbai are being given another try. Meanwhile, sanctions on Russian gas will give Putin a pain in the ass and make all the fascists cry.
That's a good one. That's good.
Hey,
yeah, I like that.
See, limericks are fun. They're fun.
Okay, let's roll for my segue, and then we go to your story. Reminds me of a song.
All right. The cable cutting song. As we talk about the undersea, second time this has happened. This is from CBC, which is a Canadian Broadcasting System. .ca. Here comes the acid reflux again. Give me 3 seconds here. Subsea fiber optic cable deliberately cut for the second time between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Telecommunications, this is from, Lauren Ella Burke. Telecommunications giant Bell is exploring surveillance options in the Gulf of St. Lawrence after one of its subsea fiber optic cables was severed. Bell says it's not clear who cut through the steel-wrapped cable or why. The IT Intrepid, that's a picture. Let's skip that. Telecommunications giant Bell is exploring surveillance options in the Gulf of St. Lawrence after one of its subsea fiber optic cables between Cape Breton Island and Newfoundland's west coast was recently severed for the second time. David Joyce, the company's director of network, said it's suspected that the anchor or a piece of the gear, such as a trawling net, snagged the cable last December 24th. He said the cable was then brought to the surface along with the gear and deliberately cut by someone. The telltale sign that we have is that there's almost like a cut or like a angle grinder cut through the cable, Joyce said in a recent interview with CBC's radio's Information Morning Cape Breton. That's a pretty tough thing to do because it's not just like a fiber optic cable that you'd see on the poles or going to your home, but it's actually wrapped in steel, so it takes a lot of effort to actually cut. The 140-kilometer cable, which runs from Dingwall, Nova Scotia to Corduroy, Newfoundland, was also sliced in a similar way on December 2023. Who cut the cable and why remains a mystery in both cases. We might have reported on that too. I don't know. In this photo, let's see, we're not going to do a report on photos. Now that the cable has been repaired, Joyce said Bell is working to prevent similar tampering, including burying the line in the sea floor. It's also considering using satellite imagery to monitor the area. In the meantime, Joyce said the company is cooperating with the RCMP and its investigation. We really want to make sure that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, by the way, we really want to make sure the RCMP conducts their investigation fully, Joyce said. Then I guess we take things from there. In a statement, RCMP said it didn't have enough evidence to proceed with the investigation into the first incident and said the investigation continues related to the second incident. In other words, we don't have a freaking clue. The cable is primary network path to Newfoundland and Labrador. While waiting for the cable to be repaired, a team from Bell reconfigured the network so there would be no impact to customers, said Patricia Garcia, communications manager for Bell. Bell had to send a special ship and crew off the coast of Cape Breton recently to repair a subsea cable. We get an update from the director of networks with Bell. Over the past week, a repair ship was sent from Halifax to fix the cable, she said. The vessel, called the IT Intrepid, uses a rover to locate a cable and bring it to the surface before handing it off to a crane. A team of about 60 people works around the clock to complete the repair. 60 people, just imagine how much you got to pay them, right?
Hey, they're making jobs, man. At least the sabotagers. Hey, they're making jobs.
Yeah, it's a great day to be in the cable splice business, right? There are not many ships in North America that can do this kind of specialized subsea cable repair, Garcia said. It can take months until a ship becomes available, she said. Also, carrying this work is weather dependent and requires moderate and temperate conditions.
That makes sense, yeah. You don't want the water going all over the place.
Yeah, December is when it was cut, so typically not the time to do it is winter. It was cut. While Joyce said that it's rare that cables are intentionally damaged, it's not unheard of. On December 24, 2024, a day after the Bell cable was cut, an underwater power cable in the Baltic Sea was suspiciously severed near the mouth of the Gulf of Finland. We reported on that one.
Yeah, it's been happening for a year now. These suspicious cable cuttings, you know.
Somebody out there's an asshole. Along with 4 internet cables. At the time, suspicious fell on ships connected to Russia. This could still be Russia. Estonia and Finland have since boosted their patrols of the area along with NATO. RCMP, which again stands for Royal Canadian Mounted Police, said they don't believe the 2 Nova Scotia incidents are national security threats. Okay. Good for you, but you're still riding a horse, and it's the year 2025.
Yeah, I'm confused why they have the mounted unit is the one in charge of cable defense. Seahorses? Do they have some seahorses? They're just
You got to call them something, right? They're still called Mounties, and they're not going to change their name just because they're no longer riding horses. Well, some of them do ride horses still. Anyway, there's your story.
Okay, well, this reminds me of a song that goes like this.
Right.
I can't stand it. I know you planned it. I'm gonna set it straight this water gate. I can't stand rocking when I'm in here, because your crystal ball ain't so crystal clear. So while you sit back and wonder why, I got this fucking thorn in my side. Oh my god, it's a mirage. I'm telling y'all, it's sabotage. Okay, that's here. Reminds me of the song. Beastie Boys Sabotage. Yeah. I wasn't gonna scream it because you know the Beastie Boys, they like scream rap. I wasn't gonna do that.
And you gotta say the last part just like this. So just like that. That's the Beastie Boys. All right, spin it for the old next story, I guess.
The old next story.
I'm gonna try to find.
It is
video.
Mixed metaphor time.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Oh,
let's talk about the German election that happened on Sunday, which I've been telling everyone about, and The results are basically what everyone expected, unfortunately, which means that second place is AfD, the secret Nazi party of Germany. So, according to Der Standard, disastrous results for the SPD, second place for the AfD, which is disastrous for Germany and the world. The FDP is no longer represented at all in the Bundestag, so they didn't even get enough votes or enough seats to be represented. After a counting thriller, the BSW also failed to clear the 5% hurdle. A two-party coalition between the Union and the SPD is therefore possible. So that's the Democrats and the conservative Christian Democrats. They're going to have to make a two-party coalition. SDU leader Friedrich Merz wants to pick up the pace after winning the German federal election. He now wants to form a government quickly and take over the office of German Chancellor. I hope that we will have finished forming a government by Easter at the latest. He wants to speak to all parties of the Democratic Center. Mathematically, a majority with the SPD would be possible, and leading SPD representatives were open to coalition talks. The Social Democrats achieved their worst result to date at the federal level under Chancellor Olaf Scholz. But, like I said, why is the dude who got a vote no confidence rerunning under the same platform that he didn't change at all and think he was going to get votes? Doesn't seem very smart. They should have at least gotten him, or he should have switched up his strategy, his manifesto, but he didn't do any of those things. He's like, I'm just going to bring you the same stuff that you voted me out for. Yeah! He did not even last a full legislative period as chancellor. Voters did not want to give him a second mandate to form a government. In the 2021 election, the SPD had achieved 25.7%, but now it has dropped to 16.4%, according to preliminary official final results. The SPD fell behind the AfD, which came in second in the election with 20.8% of all the votes. The Greens with 11.6% and the Left with 8.8% are also represented in the new German Bundestag. The FDP remained well below the 5% hurdle with a 4.3%. So that's why they've been kicked out. You need to get 5% of the vote to have seats in the government, and if you don't, you're just no longer representative of any population, I guess. Those 5% of people who voted for you, fuck what they want. They don't deserve to have rights. Representatives in the government. Saarbrücken next. BSW narrowly missed out with an entry of 4.972%. Wow, they went to the millidecibels there. 972. The BSW was about 13,000 votes short of crossing the 5% hurdle. The BSW had entered the German Bundestag. The union would have had to find two coalition partners to form a government. The clear winner is the union, the Christian Democrat Union, with 28.6%. In 2021, it achieved a 24.1%. So this is a clear increase, but it's not as big as Merz and many others in the union had hoped. They actually expected to achieve more than a 30%. Oh, they almost got there. They needed, 30,000 people, or 30,000 more people to vote for them. Mm-hmm. When Chancellor Olaf Scholz stepped onto the stage in the Willy Brandt House, he said, "This is a bitter election result, and that must be made clear at the outset." In his brief speech, he also hinted at personal consequences. In possible coalition talks with the CDU or SCU, he would be the SPD's negotiator, Scholz said on IRD. He's not available for any other government office other than the office of Chancellor. He stressed that he would not accept that the AfD had such a strong result in Germany, and he said, "It is a great honor to be the 9th Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. Now it's up to others to form a government." Scholz will remain in office on an interim basis until the new Chancellor has been elected by the Bundestag. He does not want to join a government led by Friedrich Merz, nor does he want to be part of a team that might negotiate black-red alliance with CDU leader Merz. He is like, fuck these. Fair enough. Merz has taken concessions and allowed AfD to join in his government decision-making, which is why everyone's like, you crossed the no-go line. Right, we said no other party would help or participate in whatever the AfD is doing because we don't fucking trust them. We think they're all Nazis. And behind closed doors, that's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And Merz was like, well, I need to pass this thing, so I'm just going to ask them for help. And now everyone's pissed off at the Christian Democrats Union. That evening, many people probably thought again about whether the SPT would not have been better off with the popular defense minister Boris Pistorius as candidate for chancellor. I think if you get voted out as chancellor, you need to sorry, you had your chance. Let somebody else take over, because you're not going to get any more votes. I mean, this is the same thing that happened with Macron, right? He redid a vote and they lost. They lost more votes. It's like, nobody wants you, Macron. Everyone hates you. Put something else up there. Pistorius himself was also asked whether he was annoyed that he had not been at the forefront of the election campaign instead of Schultz. His answer, no, I was not. He also stated, we achieved a catastrophic result. So some politics happening there in the background. On the evening of the election, the SPT made its first personal decisions. Party leader Lars Klingbeil is to take over as the leadership of SPD Parliament Group. SPD Executive Committee unanimously proposed that this at a meeting on Sunday evening, the 23rd of February. Klingbeil said on ARD that this was a turning point and the need for a generational change for SPD. His co-party leader Saskia Esken will remain in office. The current parliamentary group leader Wolf Mutzenich will not run again. Esken called on the union to approach her party with a willingness to compromise. If that is possible, we will not shirk this responsibility, she said on ZDF. So, the first person to appear in front of the cameras for the union on the election night was Thorsten Frey, CDU, the parliamentary manager of the union faction in the Bundestag. Our goal is to form a stable government for our country, he said, rather soberly. There was no sign of him being particularly jubilant. But it flared up when Merz came on stage. They're Germans. Germans they're not cheering and going wild. That's not really the stereotype, They're going crazy wild. They're very reserved for the most part. But it flared up when Merz came on stage at the Konrad Adenauer House and said, we won because the CDU and the SCU worked well together and we also prepared very well to take on the government. He then thanked the Bavarian Prime Minister and CSU Chairman Markus Söder. In the meantime, Söder was telling anyone who held a microphone in front of him that the CSU had done very well in Bavaria. Merz also referred again to sometimes fierce disputes. We fought a very tough election campaign. This was right and necessary, but now we will talk to each other. In the evening, however, it was still not clear which coalition would actually be enough. A black-red, a black-green, or just a three-way alliance. It seems clear who will not be in the next government. The AFD. I think Merz already feels bad that he even made any concessions with the AFD, because it almost probably cost him a lot of votes. The party, which is partly right-wing extremists, mostly partly Nazis, received 20.4% in the election, almost doubling its share from the 2021 election of 10.3%. We ran a fantastic election campaign. It was great, said Vidal in an initial statement at the election party. She repeated to Merz what she had already said during the election campaign. Our hand will always be outstretched. We are ready to participate in the government. If Merz forms a government with SPD and the Greens, then the whole thing will fail miserably, Guido explained. Yeah, of course you're going to say that. You want to be part of the government. If I wanted to be on your team, I'd be like, well, your team's going to fail without me, I have a really good rate of, passing rate. So, if you guys don't have me in your team, you're gonna lose the championship. Of course you're gonna say that. Whatever. I can also talk bullshit.
Right.
The AfD expects to become the strongest party in the next federal election. I hope the hell not. We will overtake the CDU and the SCU in the next few years, said Guido. Green candidate for Chancellor Robert Habeck, who is still Minister for Economic Affairs and Climate Protection in the current government, also has to bury his dream of becoming Chancellor. Greens received 14.8% of the vote in 2021 federal election, and this Sunday, they were projected to receive only 12%, so they had a slight decline. Habeck described the results for his party as mixed. I wanted more. We wanted more, said the Green politician. The leftist particular has been more successful in scoring points with young progressive people. He wanted to do better than Chancellor candidate Annalena Baerbock in 2021. She couldn't resist taking a jab at Habeck on the 23rd, saying, Of course we had hoped for more. Habeck, on the other hand, saw a respectable result and was pleased. the other traffic light parties got more of a beating. Yeah, that's true. The reason, reminder for anyone who doesn't remember, the whole government shut down because it was a three-way coalition, and two of the parties, which was part of this traffic light parties, where go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. They couldn't decide on what to pass. They reached a heading, and then they broke up the coalition, and then they had no majority government. And the Green Party is the only one who actually made it up, other than the SPD, who was the leader of the coalition, are the only ones who actually made it into the seats. The other two didn't make enough votes to even be seated in the government. So, in addition to the SPD, the FDP also suffered a complete collapse. It received 11.5% in 2021. On Sunday, it slipped below the 5% hurdle needed to enter the Bundestag. Party leader Christian Lindner and his deputy Wolfgang Kubicki announced their respective withdrawal from politics that evening. Alright, well, we're done. Darha Walkennecht's BSW coalition had to worry for a long time about whether it would make it to parliament. Only last night did the figures from the Federal Election Commission show that it was not enough. The party received only 4.97% of the votes. The left is clearly represented in the Bundestag, increasing to 8.5%. The left's top candidate Heidi Reichenach expressed her incredibly grateful for strengthening of her party, which had become the strongest force among first-time voters. She announced that the left would now campaign for political change in the Bundestag, whether they are opposition or in the government is irrelevant. So there you go. That is your story. Your very concise story on what's going on or may be going on in the future of German politics, and hopefully the strong-handedness of the Christian Democratic Union, which can be a little too strong-handed sometimes, which is why I think they originally lost out their majority back in 2021, and maybe turn Germany and the rest of Europe towards a more successful political landscape than right now, which is kind of anti-immigration. I think is still a problem for me anyways. The anti-immigration sentiment in all European countries is a problem for me.
The xenophobia.
Yep.
Hey.
That's my story.
And you know what they say, there's an old saying in politics, the devil you know is better than the wolf in sheep's clothing.
That's true.
And I did send you a video for today. So
okay.
That's
Let's roll my segue and then get on to your story. Ooh, a limerick. It's another right on the border between limerick and reminds me of a song. Okay.
All right, it's all about freedom of the press. This is from freedom.press. Judge issues inexcusable censorship order. No person's name in the byline. And it starts like this. Dear friend of press freedom. Press freedom is under threat from the steps of the National Archives to the banks of the Mississippi, and it doesn't stop here. Read the latest below. That was a little advertising blurb, I guess. This week, a judge granted the city of Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the crossroads is. Interesting parallel there, right? Where Robert Johnson traded his soul for guitar skills, legendarily, right? Is it in Clarksdale, Mississippi? Also the birthplace of Sam Cooke, as we covered last week. The judge granted the city of Clarksdale, Mississippi's request to order the Clarksdale Press Register to delete an editorial raising questions about transparency within the city's government. Irony just died of a ironic death. The order blatantly ignores the constitutional prohibition on prior restraints, censoring the press. Man, I could have played that clip from Big Lebowski. The Supreme Court has rejected prior restraint. I'm going to finish my coffee. Anyway, I'm reenacting the Big Lebowski. Thank you. It's our little theater piece we do every once in a while. Freedom of the Press Foundation, Director of Advocacy Seth Stern said in response, it's hard to imagine a more unconstitutional order than one compelling a newspaper to take down an editorial critical of the government. And it's particularly ironic when the editorial in question is about government secrecy undermining the public trust.
How more corrupt can you be? Like, so blatantly corrupt. Hey, don't tell people that we need to tell them what's going on.
Irony was suffocated by this one. If anyone previously trusted the secretive officials involved in this censorship campaign, they shouldn't now. Thanks to dogged reporting, we know that as fast as last week, the U.S. had sent scores of. Those are just highlights. The Freedom of Press. I guess we can read their statement. That's the end of the story.
Oh, that's it?
We're talking about it.
Oh.
Wait, we're gonna read their statement. Okay. The next story is about Trump sending migrants to Gitmo, which is like where he should be. Anyway. Let's read their statement. It's only 2 to 3 minutes. A judge yesterday granted the city of Clarksdale, Mississippi, a request to order a newspaper, the Clarksdale Press Register, to delete an editorial criticizing public officials. The order blatantly disregards the constitutional prohibition on prior restraints censoring the press. It's hard to imagine a more unconstitutional... Well, I just read this and I'll read it again. It's hard to imagine a more unconstitutional order than one compelling a newspaper to take down an editorial critical of the government, and it's particularly ironic when the editorial in question is about government secrecy, undermining the public trust. If anyone previously trusted the secretive officials involved in this censorship campaign, they shouldn't now. The underlying lawsuit here appears frivolous for any number of reasons, but even in unconstitutionally permissible defamation lawsuits, it's been well-established law for decades that the remedy for plaintiffs is monetary damages, not censorship orders. The case should not be viewed in isolation as part of a nationwide increase in baseless censorship orders known as prior restraints. But this one is uniquely egregious. City Attorney Melvin D. Miller, we need names. City Attorney Melvin D. Miller II and all of the lawyers involved in asking a court to silence the press should face real consequences, as should Judge Crystal Wise Martin, who rubber-stamped their request. Judge Martin shouldn't be adjudicating parking tickets, let alone First Amendment cases. There's your hard-hitting editorial.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, a short and sweet story about press freedom being stomped on by fascist judges who want sweetheart deals with their local governments. Obviously, taking money under the table. That's my take on that.
Obviously, he got some free tickets to the local baseball game by some rich guy, and now he's like, yeah, that's not a bribe. It was a gift.
Get a hold of that guy who's running Clarence Thomas's gravy train.
Yeah.
Back to you with your limerick, hopefully.
Limerick.
Sorry
that story was very short.
I can keep going.
The public's right to know was denied that day, as the judge's decision went the wrong way. Transparency fell, and secrecy dwelled, and the people were left to disarray. Yeah, I couldn't really dwell.
Pretty good. It's really
it rhymes
good.
enough.
It's really good.
You gave me 2 minutes to write that limerick.
It was at least 7. Come on.
It was not 7. That was the shortest story of today, I swear to you.
Well, it's their fault for making it too short when they said it was 5 minutes. Anyway.
All right. Let's roll your wheel here.
Nah, not that.
All right. Got to give me a personal story on... What are we doing? We're talking about the working class. Well, you're a working class man, so I'm sure you have plenty of stories about that. This is my culture segment by Robin Vinter on The Guardian. It's about the drama school that is supporting working class actors. So those people who have to, not just, let's be honest, all actors have been working class. There's very few amount of actors who are like, I was born and I was an actor instantly. They still are working at the local diner or whatever in order to pay the bills. It is an institution that has turned out some of the UK's most well-known actors. Stars of Bridgerton, Game of Thrones, Line of Duty, Downton Abbey, and Happy Valley are among its graduates. Its successes go back decades. Skins, Misfits, This Is England, Utopia, including every soap opera and plenty of sitcoms. There is barely a part of television or film left untouched by this 42-year-old organization. The Television Workshop, one of the country's most successful acting programs, can be found in a small, unassuming room down a street of former industrial buildings in Nottingham. Its a list of famous alumni is long. Samantha Morton, Vicky McClure, Bella Ramsey, Jack O'Connell, Felicity Jones all learned their trade there, as did Michael Chocha and his sister Lauren, Aisling Loftus, Joe Dempsey, Harry Fitzpatrick, Anjali Mohindra, and hundreds more of recognizable faces. It is for this reason that the 260 places at the Television Workshop, or just Workshop as the students call it, are highly sought after. Additions are rigorous and places are allocated based purely on talent. Once young people are accepted, the work is taken very seriously. They are taught the discipline and professionalism needed to survive in the film and television. But what makes Workshop different from prestigious theater programs and top drama schools is that nobody turned away because they cannot afford the fees. That's right. McClure told The Guardian she was beyond grateful for the opportunities given to her by charity, adding, "Without the TV Workshop, I can pretty much hand on heart say that I wouldn't have made it this far, because of the style of training and because it was free of charge." McClure, who rose to fame alongside a number of other workshoppers in the drama This Is England, for which she won a BAFTA, is one of the patrons of the charity, as is Oscar nominee and BAFTA fellow Morton, and the award-winning filmmaker Shane Meadows. And it is still turning out emerging stars. Last year, when the second series of the BBC's Sherwood aired, a dozen current and former workshoppers could be seen in one episode alone. Two of those were Oliver Huntington and Bill Jones, both aged 24, who played Ryan Bottomley and Ronan Sparrow in James Graham's Nottingham-based drama. Every actor that comes out of the workshop keeps their rough edges and their personality, and they're authentic, rather than it being drilled out of you, which you might see from some of the mainstream drama schools. Yeah, I mean, why would you... I guess the argument with mainstream drama schools is they're like, you need to become nothing so you could subsume something. Whereas the workshop is all about keeping your own personal kind of touches in your acting, you know? Yeah, I grew up, working down at the fish yard, and I'm going to use that later in my acting career instead of just being a blank. Jones joined at the youngest age of 7 and stayed as long as he could, through the age of 21. He was in the TV Workshop for a long time, and he kept his spot in. Huntington agreed. It was a space with kids like me from similar backgrounds, the same age, similar mindsets, enabling us all to test and try to make a fool out of ourselves and find our style. There's so much talent there, so much variety of talent, I think it's becoming hard to ignore now for casting directors. Jones added, "It's important to say how unbelievably amazing it is." Ali Rashley, the Television Workshop's director, said offering free places to those who cannot afford the fees will remain the most important thing no matter how tough it's getting. And it's getting very tough. There's just no funding at all for us, she said. It's become an absolute battle. For decades, the program had been financed by ITV and the BBC, but slowly the funding disappeared as broadcasters' purse strings tightened. Running costs are £120,000 a year, a small figure even in the charity sector, and 540 pounds trains one child for a year. That's not that bad actually, but there's people who can't afford that at all, right? There's people who I can't afford 550. I need that for my rent, I need that for food. A minute fraction of a drama school fee. Parents who can afford it pay £45 a month, while bursaries are funded by generous members of the public, like successful actors Kenneth Branagh, who is famous for so many things. He recently donated after hearing about the organization through a co-star who had been a member.
Henry V.
Sorry?
Henry V.
Yeah, Henry V.
Kenneth Branagh.
Also director of the first Thor film. He gave up his time completely free and spent an afternoon here, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing, Rashley said. She will use his donation to put on a free Shakespeare program, which for some may be their only chance to perform Shakespeare, given that drama has been entirely erased in many state schools. schools and curriculums. Oh, so they don't even have a drama department in a lot of schools. That's awful. It is a clear organizations like Television Workshop are vital to address a severe imbalance in the creative landscape. Figures show 35% of BAFTA-nominated actors were privately educated compared to 6 to 7% of general public. An enormous overrepresentation. Just a bunch of posh people, man. Middle-class actors are often chosen for working-class parts. But it doesn't work both ways, does it? That's really frustrating. It's just so unfair. Oh, you're working class? Well, you wouldn't know what it's like to be upper class. I'm not going to hire you for this role. That's one problem with the UK. Well, there's many problems with the UK. One of them is class. They have a terrible class structure. That I would argue class is way stronger of a segregation than even race when it comes to the United Kingdom. For a long time, historically, upper class people were just in a totally different place with a totally different life that middle and working class could never even relate to. The regional aspect is important too.
There was no middle class technically for a long time.
There isn't now either, so I don't know why we keep talking about it like it exists. It's just another thing to keep people not together, right? Oh, that person's middle class because they can afford the TV workshop. You create the smallest amount of things to make sure that the working class isn't big, right? You hit people out of the working class so that they don't have that solidarity with each other. The regional aspect is important too. Casting calls increasingly require London-based, further entrenching the overrepresentation of wealthier children from the southeast of England. Yeah, what about the Scottish people or the Welsh people? A working-class kid from Nottingham, Sheffield, Doncaster has not got a London base, and nor do they have access to a London base, and nor are they ever going to. So the industry will end up shutting down again to working-class actors, and that's unforgivable. The factors combine to mean only 8% of creatives in film and TV come from a working-class background. A statistic that is appalling, Grassley said. It's ridiculous. Years ago, we were battling this, and if anything, we're going to go backwards. Janine Baig, a trustee of the charity Open Door, which helps those who are not from privileged backgrounds to access drama school, agreed. She is casting director whose extensive portfolio of work includes virtually every lauded drama of the last decade, from Peaky Blinders to Black Mirror, and a number of beloved British films such as 28 Weeks Later, Brick Lane, and Scrapper. I think it's getting worse, she said. You look at the amount of public funding that's been cut from the creative industries. If you're a creative young person, where do you go? Well, you all move to London, I guess. She described the Television Workshop as brilliant, adding, without those key figures, it's someone's life to push them and inspire them, nurture them. It's really hard in this climate for people to do that for themselves. Everybody's stories are valid, and there's room for everybody, but everybody deserves the same level of support and encouragement. She said representation was vital across the industry to tell stories that are more truthful, but she said, it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be such a fight, which is the quote for the headline. It shouldn't be such a fight to get every inkling of representation, as Hollywood is going into its speeches about how DEI is very important. The same thing here. You need to not just get people of color on the screen, but people from different backgrounds on the screen, because that can paint and change the art you're creating in so many different ways. Because at the end of the day, film, drama, theater, that's all a group project, okay? It's all a group project, and it can get only better if you diversify the different members. There's my story on working class actors. And on to this day in history, I guess.
On my personal story, I've been watching this training video for a month or so.
Yeah.
It's called The Inside Man. It's British produced, and it seems like all the actors in this series look familiar. Like I've seen them in other things, but you look them up and they're in like nothing I've ever seen. It's like they just look like your British actor, one each. You order it from a package, here it comes. It looks just, hey, that guy looks like David Tennant, but it's not. Anyway, there's your personal story. Spin the wheel. This day in history.
All right, spinning the wheel.
Anyway, that stupid series, I never got to the end of it. They still haven't given me episode, was it season 6, episode 12? Still haven't seen it.
Damn, that sucks. All right, I have to
Left a
have
lot
a
of
bad pun.
cliffhangers.
On to your day in history.
Bad pun. And off of cliffhangers. Cliffhangers where a bunch of people are in the dark. This day in history, in 1525, the forces of the Habsburg Empire, Charles V, annihilated the army of Francis I of France at the Battle of Pavia. Pavia, hard to say for me for some reason. 1739, the Battle of Karnal pitted the invading forces of Nadir Shah of Iran against Muhammad Shah, Mughal Emperor of India. That was in 1739 in this date, roughly. 1803, in Marbury versus Madison, the U.S. Supreme Court declared an act of Congress unconstitutional, thus establishing the doctrine of judicial review. 1821, Augustine de Iturbide made an appeal for an independent Mexico in the Iguala Plan. Iguala, I almost said iguana. In 1836, American painter Winslow Homer, who captured the interaction of humans in nature in his watercolors, was born in Boston. Winslow Homer's birthday. Not Homer Simpson. In 1848, gotta give the year, the anti-monarchical, they were against monarchies, revolutions of 1848 reached France, the nation where the insurgency was successful. France and their revolutions, man. 1942, the Voice of America made its first broadcast in Germany to counter the propaganda of Nazi leaders. Of course, the Voice of America now would be right alongside of those Nazis, going,
agreeing with everything the Nazis are saying. Yeah,
that's right. Oh boy, look at that! The Fourth Reich. 1955, American businessman Steve Jobs was born. If you haven't heard of him, he was the co-founder of Apple and a charismatic pioneer of the personal computer era. So happy birthday to Steve Jobs, born in 1955. Just jumping way ahead to 1976, the regime of Fidel Castro adopted the Constitution of Cuba, which mandated the operation of only one political party, the Communist Party of Cuba. Yeah. You don't want to live in a country that has one party. Sorry. 1991, U.S. ground operations began in the Persian Gulf War, more than a month after the air war was launched against Iraq to free Iraqi-occupied Kuwait. The United States Army became a personal security force for a bunch of rich Arab barons, rich oil barons, and Freudian slip, rich oil barons in Kuwait. Oil barons, rich guys. 2020, American film producer Harvey Weinstein, whose career ended amid numerous allegations of sexual harassment and assault, was convicted of rape and criminal sex act, many viewed as the verdict as a victory for the Me Too movement, which sought to assist survivors of sexual assault. But yeah, Harvey Weinstein, 5 years ago, found guilty. 2020, American mathematician Katherine Johnson died at the age of 101. Her trailblazing work at NASA became known to a wide audience through the book Hidden Figures and its film adaptation, which were both in 2016. So, 101, good long time, good long life. 2022, some 8 years after illegally annexing Crimea. I love how Britannica does not take the fascist side. They take the real side of the news when they reported on this. Listen to this. It says, some years after illegally annexing Crimea, Russia invaded Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin cited several reasons for the war, including the false claim that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and other government officials were neo-Nazis. False claim that Stinky the Clown keeps repeating because he lives right here inside of Vladimir Putin's breast pocket. That's where he lives. Vladimir Putin says something and Trump says, how high? He doesn't have to say jump. Trump says, how high? Anyway, kiss my ass. How high? Our featured event in 1868, the first U.S. president to be impeached was U.S. President Andrew Johnson in 1868. On this day, 1868, the U.S. House of Representatives voted in 126-47 to impeach Andrew Johnson, whose lenient Reconstruction policies regarding the South of the Civil War angered radical Republicans in Congress. So they 126-47, but the Senate failed to remove him from office. And there's only been 4 impeachments in the history of the United States, and Stinky the Clown had 2 of them. That's how terrible he is. And probably a third coming up, we hope. Charles V's birthday today. He was born in 1500. As we go with the other birthdays. Jayalalitha Jayaram, Indian actress and politician, born in 1948. Steve Jobs we covered. It's Floyd Mayweather's birthday. Floyd Mayweather turning 48 today, American boxer. I do believe he's still undefeated, so that's a very rare feat, going through your whole career without losing. I don't think he's boxing anymore, but who knows with Floyd? He has a gambling problem, let's say. So he might need the money at some point. Oh, I bet $50,000 on a sure thing. You know, that guy. Anyway, and also the birthday in 1981 of Leighton Hewitt, who is an Australian tennis player. And what day is it today? It is National... Oh, we got our featured event today. Our featured biography is Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, born on February 24th, 1500. So he's a bright, spanking young 525 today. So happy birthday after your 525th to Charles V. Because the first 4 weren't good enough. He had died September 21st, and 1558 in Yuste, Spain. He was born in Ghent, Belgium. Born in Belgium, died in Spain, became the Holy Roman Emperor. And our national day today, it's only one thing, National Tortilla Chip Day. That's it. Not that exciting. Tortilla chips are great, but they're even better with salsa. So if you don't have salsa, I don't even know. Well, nacho cheese, too. You want nacho cheese. Especially the hot stuff. Anyway, those are your days. Those are your news. That's your nonsense. This is our game show for February 24th, 2025 on Before Tortilla Chips.
I did not think of a pun for this.
Really? A bad pun about anything?
About
so
any
easy.
Of that stuff? There's so much stuff. I have to choose one thing. I guess I'll just do...
You can't think of a pun about impeachment, for instance?
Well, you know what they say. Here we go. Tortillas are nacho ordinary bread.
There you go. There's a bad pun. Right on.
This has been... is there an international day today? I'd not look. Let me look. There is not. Okay, so for the next... Looks like for the next 2 weeks, or next week, we have no international UN observances. We're free from observing the UN. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands, and of course Roger from the West Coast of the United States, as we tie off another mucking fun day. I hope you found out some stuff that you didn't know were going on in the world, especially after maybe a very calming weekend. I hope you're having calm, leisurely weekends with no worries. Happy to see that the German election turned out how people expected, because if things turn out how you expect, you can plan for them. If there's a big surprise, you can't plan for anything. You're like, oh shit, we didn't have that, but it's okay. We'll see what happens for the future of the AFD. Hopefully they just die, but you know, I can't. As a party, not the people in the AFD. I don't care what happens to them, but the party itself needs to die. Thank you. And let's go ahead and get ready for our mic drop moment. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications so you'll know when we go live for tomorrow's Good Tuesday News Day. We'll cover all that positive news that you need in your life to remind you that it's not so bad out there. Comment down below what you would do if you were a tortilla chip. Let's go to our mic drop moment.
What would you do if you're okay? All right.
This is
Mic drop
the
moment.
brave people in. Is this specifically Canada or anywhere?
The cross
Nope,
section of each
this is
cable
nobody.
reveals
This is
high
how
quality
undersea
how it
cables are
works.
made.
layers of galvanized
Yeah.
steel.
You can cut it
And
off
that,
whenever you
it's
want.
not simple to cut
Plastic
these
tube,
things in
copper
half.
sheath,
You have to
and a
really
small quantity of petroleum jelly.
be doing it
Around
on
that,
purpose.
A protective copper or aluminum
So many
tube is
layers.
installed.
Mm-hmm.
The remaining components are all directed towards protecting
You don't have to
and
do all
shaping the
that.
cable.
Yeah.
They include a lead or aluminum water barrier,
Mhm.
stranded steel wires, mylar
Oh, this is so
tape,
cool.
and
They're
a final
showing like
wrap
the
of polyethylene to protect the
factory
entire
that
cable from
binds
damage
it together.
and corrosion.
Imagine what underwater cable splicer has got to be a
To more
high-paying
easily
job,
facilitate
right?
the installation
Yeah.
of the
Think about
cable, most manufacturing facilities
Oh,
position
it's so
love
the
cool.
cable
They get it
jobs.
wet
onto large
first, so
metal
that when it
rollers,
goes in the
which can be
water, it's
directly
already
transferred onto the laying vessel.
Right.
soaked with water.
Sweet.
To connect individual offshore
Oh, it's
units,
so
these special
slow.
cable laying vessels
Yeah, no
Right.
wonder it's
do
going to
an
take a long time
underwater
to repair
inspection
them.
of
That's
the
how slow
laying
it is
path
to even
to ensure
put one
there
in.
are no barriers.
Yeah, and this one doesn't appear to be fiber optic either. It looks like it's just regular transmission cable.
This is done using a remotely
And so
operated
forth.
underwater vehicle, or ROUV, which makes contact with the pre-installed messenger wire on the offshore
Oh, it
unit.
might have fiber in there. I didn't notice.
Fiber is really small compared to like copper. Cables are
Mm.
really big.
This messenger wire
With
is
a
then
lot of
pulled
resistance.
aboard and connected to the cable head.
Fiber's fast because it has no resistance.
I think this is why they're also trying. This is why they haven't buried the cables under the ground
The
before,
cable
because that
can now
adds
be
just so
deployed
much
very
more.
slowly.
Right,
with
you
the
need some sort of
ROUV checking
mini
each
tunnel
section as it
system.
makes
Whereas
contact
just
with
laying
the
it on the
bottom.
ocean floor, simple,
Yeah,
done.
yeah, right.
I mean, it's slow enough already, just placing it on
Look
the
at
seafloor.
As the cable is laid,
Bullshit,
markers
man.
indicate
It makes you
precisely
want to
where
have a
it needs to
really
be
tech
cut,
job.
and the process is repeated at
Like,
the
what
opposite
school do I
end.
need to go to for underwater cable layer? Because I feel like the job
It's
market's going
all
up for that.
apprentice.
We need more
It's
people.
an
People keep
apprentice.
A
destroying the
special
cable.
remote-controlled trench robot is then deployed
It's
to
an
vary the
apprenticeship.
freshly
Well, they
laid
need one
length
more
of
ship.
cable.
There isn't enough ships for that do this
Due to their
kind of
robust
job.
Oh, so I need to start
underwater
building the
cables have a
ships. That's
lifespan
okay.
of
That's
up
okay.
to
I need
25
build
No,
your little
you don't
dots.
have to start anything.
When a cable is retired, it can remain inactive
Yeah, with your
on the
millions
ocean
and billions
floor
of
or
dollars, you're going to
retrieved
build
for
ships.
recycling.
Right.
Once
Well,
they
if I
are
start now, I
decommissioned
might be
and
done in
removed
50
from the
years.
ocean.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.